Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Chris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 122, featuring Tanya Dalton. Welcome back to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am Chris Murray, your host, and I am thrilled to welcome you back in. It's St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and I am wearing my green beads and my shamrock earrings to show it. And I'm about a third Irish, so I am celebrating mightily today. And I want to celebrate with you the fact that an incredible rock star, an expert in productivity and building seven-figure businesses while being a mom and a wife and all the things that women in today's world have to juggle. My friend, my mastermind buddy, Tanya Dalton, is here to share all the nuggets and all the secret sauce for how to get out of overwhelm, the real deal, the real talk on actually eliminating overwhelm from your life. It is possible, and she teaches it. She has 2 books on the subject, also on developing your life as a woman business owner or a female professional, which is called On Purpose, the busy woman's guide to an extraordinary life of meaning and success. And so she's written On Purpose, and she's also written a huge bestseller, her first book, The Joy of Missing Out, not the fear of missing out, but the joy. And so we dive into today here on the podcast, all the nuggets that she talks about in her books and how to actually craft a life that feels meaningful, does not feel overwhelming, that is focused on what is going to move your needle, not anybody else's, and not apologizing for letting things go that are no longer serving you, your goals, your dreams, your desires, and having a successful business that's crafted all about how you want to live your life. Not anybody else's vision, but your vision that you choose. And so if that sounds juicy and amazing to you and something you need to hear, then you better stay tuned for this episode. Before we dive in, I want to thank my friends over at Childcare Education Institute for being an amazing sponsor of our podcast. And I want to share with you just a quick message about CCEI. Have you ever had one of those days where your classroom felt more like a zoo? CCEI is here to help. Get your class back under control with a free online course, GUI 101, Classroom Management, filled with classroom management tips for early childhood pros. The best part, your free course is courtesy of the best in the business, the accredited Child Care Education Institute. They're great friends and partners of ours. And claiming your free course is easy. You simply visit their website, which is cceinonline.com. and select Enroll Now and use the code CCSC and the number 4. That's CCSC and the number 4 at sign up now through April 30th, 2022. And while you're there, be sure to check out CCEI's 150 other courses, including 150 plus, including ones on fun topics like cooking in the classroom and the benefits of music. If you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard me rave about CCEI, and that's partially because you can complete their fascinating courses 24/7 from any device. After completing your free course, you'll see why 99% of users would recommend CCEI to a friend. Don't forget to use code CCSC and the number 4 to claim your free course, GUI 101, which is classroom management, now through April 30th, 2022. Sign up to get your exclusive access at cceinonline.com. So that was a lot of codes and things and course codes. So go back and listen to that again if you need to. And definitely go check out your free course at CCEI. We love them. So I want to dive in and tell you a little bit about my friend Tanya, who is an incredible female entrepreneur and author. I met Tanya through a 7 and 8 figure business owner mastermind group that I'm in called The Trust, led by none other than Miss Allie Brown, who I also interview on this podcast, episode 100. And the thing that really makes The Trust special, there are many things, but the thing that it's really known for, that it's designed to do, is it's exclusively for the ladies. It is exclusively women entrepreneurs, 7 and 8 figures. You must have at least $1 million business to be in The Trust. And I have found it incredibly fun and useful, very impactful for my business, very satisfying and fulfilling to be in a group of women and share things that only women have the experience of. And that's what sets this mastermind group apart from all the rest that I've been in, which as you guys know, I'm a huge proponent of any coaching mastermind group that you can get in to help you, which is why I host the largest one in the childcare industry, the Childcare Success Academy. And it's the thing that will help you get to the next level in your business, because it's the place where you can go and have accountability and sharing and openness and honesty and talk about money and talk about things that you really wouldn't talk to your husband or your neighbors or even your mom about. Nobody else gets it except other entrepreneurs walking your path. And so that is why it has been probably the most game-changing thing that I've done as an entrepreneur, is to be consistently in different mastermind groups. So I met Tanya that way. She sold her first business. She shared all about how she did that, not on the podcast, but with us in our mastermind meetings. We were so proud of her. And she started her second business, which she shares on the podcast. She has gotten to 7 figures plus in just 18 months with her husband, which is no small feat. And her books are incredible. I highly recommend for you to go pick up copies of her books, and we'll dive all into these things. Her podcast is well worth listening to, and I want to tell you about that. It's called the Intentional Advantage podcast, The Intentional Advantage with Tanya Dalton. And so just go check it out. You're going to pick up a ton of writer downers by following Tanya. And you can't, right now, she's taking a social media hiatus. We talk all about that too in this episode. Why did she leave social media? Why is she taking a break from it in her life? And she's going on 3 months of being away from all the channels, all the platforms, all the media. How must that feel to not be scrolling Facebook and Instagram? Amazing. Think about how much you would get in your life, quality and quantity, back if you decided to not do social media for a week. Heck, maybe even a day. Got to break the addiction. So we talk about that. We talk about habits that are not serving women and people in general around productivity. We talk about how to get out of overwhelm, how to really eliminate it from your life, and much, much more right here at episode 122 of Childcare Rockstar Radio. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here, and also to introduce you to my guest today, Tanya Dalton. Tanya, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm so excited for us to chat, Chris, because I know we can chat about just about anything.
We absolutely can and have.
Yes.
Where are you right now?
I am in Asheville, North Carolina, which is
good.
the mountains of North Carolina. So it's beautiful right now.
Great town.
Oh yeah, we chose to move here. back in 2012, because if you own your own business, why wait till you retire to live where you want to live? So, yeah,
Exactly.
we love it.
Awesome. Well, tell us more about you and the work that you do.
So, I like to say I'm a CEO, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm lots of different hats, as a lot of your listeners are as well.
Yeah.
I started my entrepreneurial journey back in 2008. So I feel like I'm like old school, right? When I'm like, yep, I had a call with my husband where he phoned me and the phone was on the wall. He was on the other side of the planet. People are like, wait, there were phones on the walls?
Right.
Like, yes, right? Um, and I had a conversation with my husband that totally changed my trajectory of my life. I was a stay-at-home mom and I had a business that started for $50 selling to friends, maybe friends of friends. And in that conversation with my husband, I told him all the things the kids were doing and what was going on. And he said, I'm missing everything. I'm missing all the moments. I'm missing the milestones. And I told him he didn't, but I knew it pulled on him. And I stood in my bright yellow kitchen and I hung up that phone on the wall. And I made a big, bold decision that I was going to grow my business from a little tiny side hustle that I was doing, while I was a stay at home mom with $50 into a business that was big enough to absorb his MBA income, which was a pretty audacious goal for somebody
Wow.
with zero business experience. I had
Yeah.
never even taken a business class in college, which makes me want to kick myself now, right? But I stood there and I made that decision and I sat down, I mapped out some systems for myself, I created operations. I knew I had to be really productive because I had a husband who traveled for 3 or 4 weeks at a time and I had two small kids. And within about a year, my husband was able to leave corporate America behind. So he has been working for me since 2009. So I
Wow.
would say we work side by side, but we really sit across the desk from each other,
Right.
which we love. And it has really just, that was my first real big entry into owning my own business and entrepreneurship, which led me to, like I said, Asheville, North Carolina, and then opening up my second business, which I was able to scale to 7 figures in less than 18 months with just me and my husband and one part-time employee. And then
Wow.
that led to podcasts and, books. And here I am today.
That's an amazing story. So I know that my listeners and viewers are going to be wanting the scoop with how you actually went from a mom with kids at home as your primary focus. And maybe you had a
Mhm.
professional life, but you didn't have business classes. Like, how did you dive in and get started with an idea? And not only that, but then you did it again with a repeatable success, but it sounds like faster success. 18 months to 7 figures is quite something. So give us a little bit more about how you put that all together. What were kind of like the secrets
Yeah.
of your success?
Well, prior to being a stay-at-home mom, I was a teacher, which I bet a lot of your listeners were probably
Yep,
in some sort of similar, right? So I was
totally.
a teacher. Everything that I knew was in the classroom. I'd never been in a corporate boardroom or done any of those things. So it felt really audacious. Who am I to start a business and run a business? And for a long time, I called myself an accidental entrepreneur, which I think was a big mistake to call myself, first of all, because there were these breadcrumbs of always doing these little kind of small businesses. I sold purses to other teachers. I had a greeting card company for a little bit. But it also sold me short. It was me identifying myself and making myself small when in truth was I've been an entrepreneur all along.
Hmm.
And so it really is choosing to step into that. I believe fully, wholly, truly believing in yourself before anybody else does, even. I think that's really what makes a difference. But for me, sitting down in my kitchen that night after getting off the phone with my husband, it really was, how do I do the things that really matter? How do I get these things done? Because I've got one kid hanging on one leg, the other kid on a hip, right? And a husband who's gone.
Yeah.
So how do you make that work when you can only work 2 days a week? Because that's what I did when I first started off. I was working 2 days a week when the kids were at Mother's Day out. And it was like, go, 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 go.
Right.
And for me, it really was, what are the things that are going to move the needle the most? What are the things that are going to shift the business and allow it to grow revenue? And I think that hasn't changed in everything that I've done through that first business and the next business. In fact, understanding that concept even more is what allowed me to scale the second business even faster,
Mm,
because we get caught up in wearing all the hats,
yeah.
right? When you're a business owner, you wear every single one of the hats and you wear them at the same time. even if you don't look good in hats. You're
Yes.
always wearing hats. And then if you're a mom, you take off the CEO hat and you go home and you put on the CEO of the home hat, right? So there's always a hat that you're wearing. And so for me, it really was figuring out what are the things that are going to move the needle the most, and then spending time on those things.
Mhm.
And really, when I was a company of one, really creating themes and structures to my week. So Monday was marketing Mondays. Tuesday was outreach and team. Wednesday was warehousing or inventory, things for products. Thursdays was a day for innovation and so on. And that way, instead of trying to do all the things at the same
Yeah.
time, I zeroed in, I went deeper, right? And I created these batches where I would really dive in and I would focus
Mhm.
in on marketing. That's not to say if something came up on Thursday that was marketing related, I wouldn't do it, but I knew that Monday was the big day. So that allowed me not to let things slip through the cracks. And
Right.
then as I scaled and I grew, I continued to integrate a lot of these productivity principles into my business with the systems, with the operations as we expand and grow with our team.
Mhm.
So I think for me, that's what made a huge difference.
Well, I love that. And I love that you said, wearing all the hats. So many of our audience members are doing just that. And then if you don't put focus and either have themes or time blocking and some of these productivity tips that we're going to talk about, you just face tremendous burnout. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people just don't meet the finish line of what they're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish, because they throw in the towel simply because they just haven't supported themselves with the
Mhm.
right habits, the right framework. I love the theming. I actually do that, Tanya. I have Monday is a free day for me just to work on deep work with no interruptions. Tuesday is
I love
team.
that.
Wednesday is
Mhm.
partners and business development relationships, et cetera, et cetera. And then I have Friday is mostly a free day. So I've set myself up just like that, just like you have. But after many years of struggling, of trying to juggle all the plates and wear all the
Wear 'em
hats,
all.
which
Mhm.
again is exhausting. Um,
Well, here's the
so
other thing
yeah,
is we're burned out and you get overwhelmed. I
yep.
think overwhelm is like the word I hear all the time when I talk to
Hmm.
business owners, especially like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's home? How's business?
Yep.
Overwhelmed, overwhelmed. I like to say overwhelm isn't having too much to do. It's not knowing where to start. When
Right.
you know where to start, you can move forward with confidence. And then having those theme days tells me where I'm going to start. I know if it's Monday and we're doing marketing Monday, I'm starting with marketing. And
Yep.
that's my big focus for the day. So I can take some of those other things off my plate
Hmm.
and stop worrying about them,
Yes.
right? We're all juggling a lot of plates. You don't have to carry them all at the same time. Let's put some to the side. Let's worry about this for now. We can put that to the side and then bring in another plate, right? It's honestly, it's choosing not to do all the things. And it
Hmm.
is narrowing in and focusing in on that end goal, what the vision is and the purpose behind your business so that everything is aligned for that big vision that you have. Not just for your business, but also for your personal life and what your business looks like for your personal life, right?
Hmm.
I think that's important too.
I love that. So speaking of personal life, tell us a little bit now, fast forward now, current day, your kids are older. How old are they? Are they in college? What's happening? And your hubby, I'm assuming, is still working side by side with you, but just give us more of a picture of your home life and anything that you're up to
Yeah.
here in 2022.
Yeah, well, the kid who was hanging on my leg is now 6'3", so he's not. I have to look up to him, which does make it difficult to discipline. But that's another story. He is he is now a freshman at college, so he has been right alongside me throughout the whole thing. And then my
Mhm.
daughter Kate is in ninth grade, so she's in high school as well. And John and I still work across the desk from each other. And so we love it. It really is a lifestyle that works for us, that benefits us, that allows me to live the way I want to live. I really believe when I stood in that bright yellow kitchen, I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was craving was freedom, lifestyle freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, the location freedom, which we have been living in Asheville, right?
Sure.
All of that freedom to be able to structure the days the way that you want to structure them. So,
Mhm.
like you, with your Fridays where you're light, I don't work on Fridays. So,
Yeah.
Fridays are off for me. I leave work every day at 3 o'clock. I really create strong boundaries so that way I can focus in on work when I'm in work mode and give
Mhm.
100%. And when I'm in home mode, I am 100% eyes like, focused in on my kids, paying attention to them when I'm in kind of my personal life. I think that's really important. But I love to do other things. I love to cook. I'm a really avid reader. I love going outside and hiking. That's part of the reason why we moved to Asheville. So doing all those kinds of things just brings me so much happiness and joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's important as a business owner, have outlets, have a hobby other than working on your business.
I love it. So you mentioned the word joy. So I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about and introduce our listeners and viewers to your two amazing books. I have both of them. The first one that you wrote was called The Joy of Missing Out. Instead of FOMO, it's JOMO, y'all. So you got to get your hands
Yes.
on that one. And we're going to dig into some tips inside of both books. And your more recent one, which also comes with a really cool little workbook, hands-on journal or workbook, if you will, is called On Purpose, The Busy Woman's Guide to an Extraordinary Life of Meaning and Success. And I love that subtitle. Every time I say it, I
Thank
get
you.
filled with just all the
I mean,
feels.
who
I
doesn't
love
want
it.
an extraordinary life, right? Like I want an extraordinary life, don't
Exactly.
you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
meaning and success. So
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, it's good. So tell us a little bit more about those two books, if you want to focus in on your more recent, whatever you want to talk about. But I want to dig into why were you called to
Mhm.
write these books? What really spurred you to dive in? And let's just start there.
Yeah. Well, writing a book was something I've always wanted to do. Like since I was in sixth grade in Mr. Carlisle's classroom, I wanted to write a book. Obviously, then I wasn't like, I'm going to write a productivity book. Like I had no idea. I
Right.
just knew I loved to write. And
Yeah.
so writing a book was one of those things that was always kind of, oh, I'll do that someday. I'm going to do it
Yep.
eventually. And so, I had my podcast come out and we were probably a couple million downloads in when a publisher reached out to me and said, we'd love for you to write a book. And I thought, oh my gosh, I guess maybe this is the time. Well, like 3 weeks later, a second publisher reaches out and is like, we would like you to write a book for us. And I'm like, hold on. Okay, I get how the universe works. This is a sign. Like, but here's the thing that I think is really interesting that most people are surprised by. I said no to both of those offers
Wow.
because I wanted to write a book on my own terms. So I said, okay, universe, I get it. It's time for me to write the book. Let me step back and really choose what I want this book to be about. I really wanted to write a book that was specifically for women, talking about productivity systems that were going to work for us. Because every book out there on productivity, if you go do a search, are people named Cal or Michael or Greg or right? Like they're all men.
Yep.
Which is great, but let's have a book for us. So what's funny is I said no to those two publishers. I created a proposal about writing a productivity book for women by a woman, and publishers went crazy because they were like, no woman has done this before. Like this is
Wow.
not heard of in this space. I ended up with 7 offers on my book, went to auction, craziness, right? For a first time author. And then, the joy of missing out really is like my love letter to women about how you can find the joy that I truly believe is already there, hidden in the cracks and the crevices of everyday life. It's just you're too damn busy to notice it. So
Yeah.
let's choose to let go of busy. And then amazingly enough, for a girl who stood in her kitchen with 0 business experience, that book was named a top 10 business book of the year by Fortune magazine, which is insane, right?
Right.
So I really just wanted women to see that it's possible to do the things that you love, to do it without the guilt, to live your life to the fullest and do it on your own terms. And here's the structure for how you can make that work for you. So that's really why I wanted to write The Joy of Missing Out. And it was so fascinating because after people got the book, there were so many women who were like, how did you know I was feeling this way? Or have you been listening to my conversations? Because we've not had a book written for us about what it's like to run life and work, right? Because it's very different than what it
Yep.
is for men. That's
Yep.
the truth. I mean, I love men, but it is very different for them than it is for us. So it was an amazing experience. And I loved writing The Joy of Missing Out. And so, of course, HarperCollins said, will you write a second book? So I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll write a book on goal setting. People love goals. I will do that.
Yeah.
And so I mapped out a whole outline of what the goal setting book was going to be about. I had a whole action plan of how I was going to write it. That was in February of 2020. And then March of 2020
And
happened.
then what happened?
And oh my God, the whole world is like falling apart, right? With the pandemic, I'm suddenly filling out PPP paperwork.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
trying to like navigate things with my team. I have 2 kids now homeschooling, which I'd never anticipated doing any of that.
Right.
So the book had to be put kind of aside. Like it kept getting like, can't do it, can't think about it, can't think about it. And what was beautiful was this: as I had this pause in my life, I began to really notice that all these women in my world were asking these questions. Why have I been doing the things I'm doing? Is this all that there is? Why have I been, what am I doing at work? Is
Mhm.
this really meaningful to me? And I realized goals are not the goal. Goals are the vehicle to get you to the life you want. And that includes your business. Your business is the vehicle to get you to the life you want. So the book took a very different turn. It was no longer a goal setting book. We talk about goals in there because goals are the vehicle to get you there. But it's really about this big vision we have for our life, living on purpose and living each day so it truly matters most. I think so many women chase down a busy to do list, right? They do 1,000 things,
Yep.
they slip into bed at night. And then you know what they say to themselves?
Mm.
Oh, why didn't I get more done? Oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. We go to bed and we feel exhausted and overwhelmed, unsatisfied, and we're disappointed.
Right.
And that's the worst way for us to go to bed.
Yep.
So I wanted to write a book that was really more than goals. It's how do you figure out what the right goals are for you? How do we
Mhm.
align goals so they work for you? How do you live every day so you're getting closer to this big, bright, beautiful future that you dream about? So it's
Mhm.
much bigger than goals. It's about living on purpose, living
Yeah.
with intention.
I love that. And what I really love is as you describe the timeline and then the impact of COVID, it came to me, Tanya, that the joy of missing out really helped people more than ever. We had so many things happening with our kids at home from homeschooling and all of these things that came back into our world and back on our plate, not to mention the anxiety and stress and concern and sadness for any loved
Yes.
ones that were sick or passing. So we had so much more on our plate from March 2020 through really
Mhm.
today. And so the JOMO really helped women survive that time. But then coming out of it, I have a friend in Denver, for example, whose kids are just going back to school on
Wow.
April 1. And so there's a lot of moms who have had professional careers who are now home, now tiptoeing. In fact, there's a million moms on the sidelines right now, still waiting to get back into the workforce because their kids
Yeah,
are
they've been
at home.
sidelined. Yeah.
And so, or just they're choosing to be on the sidelines until it's fully safe, like just a little bit more
Mhm.
fear based. And so I think the on purpose is helping those women recraft what their future really wants and feels to look like because they
Yeah.
have put that on hold too, because they've just been surviving, getting through this thing. And now it's time to reassess. Everybody's reassessing their lives and going, now that we've lived through that, like, what do I really
Now
want from
what?
life? And I think your book on purpose is going to really help them with that. So I would,
Thank you.
greatly recommend all women listening to get a hold of these two books because they're both amazing.
Thank you. Well, I like to say honestly, the silver lining with COVID, with the pandemic, because we have to look for the silver linings, right? Otherwise, it's too depressing. The silver lining is that we were really able to get a lot of clarity. In The Joy of Missing Out, there's a line there where I say, it's hard to know what to throw overboard until your ship is sinking, right? All of a sudden, when your boat is sinking, you're like, oh, don't need this, don't need to do that. This doesn't need to be in here. And you really figure out what needs to be in the boat. And that's what happened for all of us. When COVID hit, everybody's boat was sinking.
Yep.
And suddenly you were like, I don't need to do these things. Even with our businesses, it was like, okay, what are the things that are gonna move things the most? What's gonna
Yes.
drive the needle forward? What's gonna help us? And we were able to get that clarity. Well, now that things are kind of coming back to, well,
Hmm.
quote unquote normal, or
Hmm.
some sort of, we're putting things back in the boat. Go back and think about what was important in that boat. Let's
Yeah.
focus on those things
Mm.
instead of getting caught up, because that's what we do. We look around at what everybody else is doing, and that becomes our measuring stick of success, whether we're talking about our business or our life. We're like, ooh, what's she doing over here? I should do more of that. Or how much revenue is this person making? Oh, I need to do that, right? Or I need to do these things because this is what everybody else is doing.
Right.
I want you to figure out what you want to do. And that's the whole purpose of the book, is let's figure out what you want, and then let's back it up and figure out what are the right things for you that are going to
Hmm.
matter most to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a marketer, and I teach a lot of marketing tactics on this podcast, oftentimes I have looked at what everyone else is doing and then done the opposite, which can be a very
Hmm.
effective strategy too, to stand out and break away from the pack. And then also it relieves you of that guilt feeling like, oh, I have to go do that too because everyone else, and you get caught in that me too component. And then it's, no, I'm going to declare my own path, and I'm only going to put the things back in my boat that are going to help me sail that
Yeah.
path, you know? So I love that.
Well, that's the thing is we go into business for ourselves because we want to break the rules. We want to create our own rules, and then we start looking around, and now we're playing by everybody else's rules,
Right.
right? Pick your own rules.
Yeah.
You get to pick them. That's the beauty of what you do, right? And really, this is true in your personal life too. You have a choice in what you
Yep.
put in that boat.
Yep.
So just be intentional with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
which sounds easy to say, but it's a little more complex.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not, you know, at the same time, it's
Mhm.
like everything is a choice, and everything that we're carrying around, usually we have to look in the mirror and own it. It's like, wow, I had this bad thing come into my life. Well, it could be coincidence, but is there something you also did to kind of bring that in? Or, you
Right.
know, and so I think a lot of times we just want to cast blame and not really own our crap.
I think
And
that's
so I
very
kind of
true.
try to gently and lovingly call people out on that too, because, you know,
Sometimes
it's
not so gently, and that's okay too.
maybe, but
I'm the
myself
same way.
included. Yeah. I
I
mean,
but I appreciate that.
yeah,
That's what we need,
yeah,
honestly. And it's funny because you're talking about, with marketing a lot of times, look what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. That's one of the things I've recently done. As you know, made the statement that I have gone off social media as of January 1st of this
right.
year, which is very against the grain. But truly, when I dove into the metrics of my business, and I'm not talking about
Mhm.
the vanity metrics, like, ooh, how many followers do I have? How many
Right.
likes did I get? When I really started diving into where are my soulmate clients finding me? And that's what I call the clients I love working with. They love working with
Mhm.
me. I love working with them. They're my soulmate clients. Were they finding me on social media? Turns out, nope, they weren't. But I was spending like an insane amount of time on social media marketing, right? A lot of money, a lot of effort. And for me, it was very frustrating for very little revenue. And that's the exact opposite of what we
Mhm.
want, right? We want to do things that create little effort that have a giant impact. So, one of the things I've been doing since I've been off social media is really focusing in on my newsletter, really ramping that up and talking about it and making it better than ever. My open rate, Chris, since I went off social media, my open rate on my emails has increased 25%. It's
Wow.
huge, right? And that's traffic that I own. So that's great. I'd much rather have a higher open rate on my emails than to have 3 million followers who are, going to get my post or sometimes not get my post. Now,
Exactly.
some people's businesses do really well and they do convert customers from social media. So it's not as, something that I'm saying everybody has to do. But for
Mhm.
me, it aligned with my messaging of who I am about doing what matters most. And when I dove into the numbers, I was like, oh, why am I spending so much time and effort on this? That's
Yeah.
crazy. And I'd done it for years.
Yep.
Right. So it's choosing what's going to work for you and what works for your soulmate clients.
And being brave, because that's a very brave thing that you did, Tanya. Now, are you still off social media?
I am. I am
Wow. I
still
bet
off
that
of
feels
social
amazing.
media. It's like I got an energetic haircut. It's
Yes.
honestly like I'm like,
Totally.
"Whoo, I feel so good." It is so freeing because for
Yeah.
me, I wasn't getting a lot of joy out of it, but I was doing it because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. If you're not on
Yeah.
social media, people think you're dying. And the truth is, I have a highly successful podcast. So clearly people know I'm still alive.
Right.
I have books coming out, right? I have the email, the newsletter that I'm sending out. So
Yeah.
there's lots of other ways. But people thought I was crazy. People were like, that's insane. But they'll call you crazy until they call you a genius.
Right.
We're all crazy a little bit for owning our own businesses. That's the truth.
Well, the thing is people cannot just scroll you and get their hit of their daily hit
Hmm.
of Tanya. So they're going to open your email more intentionally and more fully and read it because they're missing you on that other platform. So it actually is a stroke
Right.
of genius. So way to go, lady.
Thank you.
Um, let's talk about lessons. So looking back, and part of me hates this question, but I learn a lot from asking it to my guests. The number one lesson that you've learned throughout your journey, what might you do differently if you could go back in a magic time machine?
Well, I would have looked at my metrics a lot long ago, like so much further back, so that I could have been off of social media earlier. That's
Right.
one of the things I would do. I would really take a good look at that. I think honestly, the secret to my success is not being afraid to look foolish. I am not afraid to ask the dumb questions. I'm not afraid to ask the dumb question again if I don't understand. I'm not afraid to ask it a third time if it's really not clear. I think too, as women, we worry about how we look or we appear, and we're afraid to ask the questions. And questions are how we learn. Anytime you're doing something new, don't be afraid to ask the questions.
Mhm.
So if I had like a little magic time machine, I would first of all go back to my business and I would say, don't be afraid to ask all the questions and ask them again and ask them until it's really clear and you understand it. And I would tell myself to do more of the Pareto Principle. Really diving into Pareto Principle is a principle I talk about in The Joy of Missing Out, where it's the small effort that creates the big result. 20% of your revenue or 20% of your clients bring in 80% of your revenue.
Right.
And it works even like 20% of your carpet is what gets walked in 80% of the time. 20% of your closet is what you wear 80% of the time.
Yeah.
It's a small little grouping, a vital few that create the biggest impact. And when you start doing that in your business, when you start really Pareto principling and looking at who are my core clients, and you start putting more time, energy, money, effort into those people, your revenue is going to increase. That's not saying you're going to ignore the other people, right? But you're going to put the emphasis on those things.
Yeah.
Same with my products. If I look at my products, instead of having 5 million products, figuring out which ones are my best sellers, focusing only on those. Instead of trying to do everything for everyone, I would do fewer things for a smaller group of people, because
Right.
then I could message them so much better. I wish I had learned that lesson earlier.
I love that. And I do use 80/20 in my life and in my business, but talking about it
Mhm.
with you brings it back to focus because it's one of those amazing principles and I teach it too. But I think, it's just we have so much in our world to remember in our brains and in our hearts that sometimes we forget those really
Oh
awesome
yeah.
writer downers. And that's one of them for sure. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I have to agree. That to me is a needle mover, because it's
Yeah.
so simple to do, and yet it really can make a huge impact. Because I do think we want to help as many people as we can. We want to make a big impact, so we mistakenly try to sell to everybody. We try to have offerings for everybody, and that's part of how we burn out. We wear
Hmm.
ourselves out by trying to be everything to everyone.
For sure.
Choose who you want to be, who you want to work with, your soulmate clients, and focus it on that. It makes a huge difference.
I love it. Any other books, resources that you have found useful in your journey that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah. So obviously, Joy of Missing Out and On Purpose,
Obviously.
but
Yeah.
other books, we'll talk about some other authors for a moment as well.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich is, of course, a classic that is something every business owner should read. It's
Mhm.
really going to shift your mindset. Leaders Eat Last is probably one of my favorite leadership books, I would say. And then newer to me is Keith Cunningham, who are you familiar with Keith Cunningham?
Yes, I
I
love The
have
Road Less
Ro
Stupid.
That's the one I was gonna suggest, The Road Less Stupid. I feel like I'm like, "Oh my god, where's this guy been my whole life?"
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, he's really on point and he's sharp and he's direct,
Yeah.
which I know you like and I like, right? Where
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Oh god, he's talking to me. Oh, I know it." So, yeah, that's the
I
one.
love when
Actually,
he sums up
go
a
ahead.
chapter and he's like, "Here it is on a bumper sticker." So, I
I
love
love
that.
that phrase. Here it is on a bumper sticker. John and I are actually, we've gone through and read the book. We read a chapter and then we sit down and we discuss like what we see in the business. And it's been
Ah.
really, really eye opening, because it does get you to think in other ways.
That's so good. I love that. And I actually think I might do that with my COO too, because he loves
Oh,
that
do.
book. And then
Hmm.
if we
Hmm.
collab like it, we'll get new things out of it. So I love
Well,
that. Great idea.
I feel like I do at least an hour of growth a day, either personal
Hmm.
growth or business growth. Every day I do an hour of growth. I find that when I'm doing it with like John, for example, um, I will, like, if there's a question, I'll answer it. But if he's there, he's going to be like, "Oh no, go deeper. He knows me. He knows," right? And he'll be able to dig. And I dig back with him as well. So it just allows you to go even deeper. I truly believe this is why with both of my books, I include, almost like a workbook style to start applying it, because I want women to come together. I want you to discuss it. I want you to challenge it. I want you to argue and disagree with me from time to time. I think that's an amazing thing. And you do that when you get together, right? When you
Yeah.
create community and you allow a space for that to happen. So, yeah, I'm all about that.
I love it. Tanya Dalton, you have rocked our worlds today, and I have loved having you as a guest, as I knew I would. Is there anything else that you want to share before we say goodbye?
No, I would just say, if anything on today's episode got you thinking, if you were like, ooh, maybe I should Pareto Principle, or maybe I need to try this, or let me think about that, or maybe I need to go get her book, whatever it is, I would challenge you to take 15 minutes today to take action on it. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we think, oh, I'll do that at some point. I'll write that down. I'll do that later. 15 minutes is all you need to get started. That's all the momentum you need to get yourself going. If you feel stuck, 15 minutes of action, you're automatically unstuck.
Yeah.
So take action on something you heard today. Just set a timer for 15 minutes. That's all I ask.
Love it. So good. Tanya Dalton, an amazing author, productivity expert, women's productivity coach and expert, just amazing. And I have loved having you here on Childcare Rockstar Radio. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris. I knew we'd have a good time.
Yes, we absolutely did. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I know you got a lot of nuggets from this one, so go take action, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.